the amount of radiation released through meltdown through the reactor core was relatively small. What happened in this particular type of reactor design, somewhat different from 3 Mile Island, was they have to control the pressure that is being built up due to melting of the fuel rod and the production of the hydrogen through the zirconium hydrogen chemical reaction. So they want to control pressure. So they decide to vent some hydrogen gas mixed with radioactive gas into the secondary containment and eventually to the environment. The amount that was released was relatively small, a bit more than what happened to 3 Mile Island, the way I understand at this point. But again, would not amount to a whole lot more than 2 chest X-rays for people around the evacuation, outside of the evacuation zone.
Now, but once the radiation has, spread, even in small amounts, doesn't it basically sit there? It doesn't have something like a $4.5 billion year half-life or something like that?
Some of the radioactive material that are of important, significant amount also, in particular, strontium has about 30-year lifetime, half-life. That's the time that this material will take to decrease in radioactivity by a factor of 2. So, indeed, it will take quite a while for some of the radioactive species to decay away. But in the process, the amount of radioactivity will go down, and but the amount of these radioactive materials released would be, again, relatively small. That's what we learned from 3 Mile Island accident again.
There have been reports of radiation from the Fukushima Daiichi reactor detected in Washington State and in Northern California. Now, regardless of how small the amounts of radiation detected currently are, is it a cause for concern that we're detecting any radiation in the United States in the first place?
What's tricky about radiation detection is this. The radiation detection systems are so precise and accurate, any minute amount of radiation can be detected. While it takes a lot of effort to detect the same amount of chemical poison, there's no easy way to detect a minute amount of chemical poison. But radiation, we can detect a minute amount. That's what's happening. And whether the radiation that was detected in Washington, state of Washington, somewhere there, are indeed due to this particular accident, or was a result of some other event, like a fallout, we don't know yet. So I remain somewhat skeptical that indeed radiation detected right now is due to the radiation release at Fukushima site. The amount is very small again.
We have a question out of the chat room. Annie is in Norway, and she's a listener, and she's in the chat room, and she said that she's been told that the radiation from Fukushima is headed her way. Can you comment at all on the fallout pattern or on whether she has things to be concerned about? She's about 500 miles from Iceland.
It depends heavily on the weather pattern, how much would fly in her direction. But again, as the distance increases, the radiation will be diluted so that when it reaches Norway, I tend to think at this stage that the radiation level will be well below that could harm anyone living in Norway. But again, there will be some detection. No question about it. For the reason that I mentioned.
What are your thoughts on the rush of people purchasing potassium iodide and other anti-radiation medications and supplements? Do you think it's a good idea?
Not in Russia, I don't think.
No, I'm saying Russia, the rush of people.
Oh, rush.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Like in Austin, Texas, they've completely run out of the stuff. And Obama at one point came out and said, don't do any of that stuff. We'll take care of you. What do you think about people just going out and suddenly buying off the shelves this stuff?
I don't think it is necessary and prudent at this stage to stock up potassium iodide pills. We'll have plenty of time to prepare for such a contingency, in fact, if indeed we have to be prepared for it. And there are side effects associated with potassium iodide pills. So for most people, it's not a good idea even to take the pills unless it is absolutely necessary. And again, this is to protect potential absorption of radioactive iodine in human thyroid. And again, the amount of radiation that we have to contend with in this country at all would be so small that I would not even think about taking any of the tablets myself.
Yeah. What about somebody like Annie in Norway? Would you think that she would have more of a concern because of where she's located?
I don't think so. The situation hasn't gotten to that level. The situation in Fukushima is entirely different from 1986 accident at Chernobyl. At Chernobyl, there was a major nuclear accident. That means the whole accident progresses like a small atomic bomb that released a huge amount of radiation of all kinds. But in 3 Mile Island accident in 1979, Fukushima here, the type of reactors cannot explode like a small atomic bomb. Its design is entirely different. So there will not be large release of radioactivity as happened at Chernobyl in 1986.
Considering the current catastrophe in Japan, as well as previous nuclear accidents, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, have you in any way changed your assessment in terms of the risks associated with the use of nuclear energy versus the potential benefit?
This is an issue that we've been discussing all along in the nuclear community. But as I indicated earlier, we have operated our 100-plus nuclear power plant safely without any major accident or without release of any radioactivity to the environment for the past 30 years. And the performance of our nuclear power plant, in fact, has significantly improved and enhanced. So we have gained the power output equivalent to maybe 20 or 30 new nuclear power plants during the past 10 years or so. So there is a significant benefit coming from nuclear energy because we are avoiding release of greenhouse gases to the environment through nuclear energy, let alone less of dependence on foreign oil, as I mentioned earlier. But we are constantly evaluating the risk, and we are trying to improve the performance. So next generation nuclear power plants on drawing board, some under construction in China and some will be constructed in the United States, will rely on passive safety features. That means instead of relying on pumps that require electricity or diesel or even steam-driven pump, the next generation advanced reactor systems will rely on gravity-driven water cooling, which means we would have large reservoir water sitting on top of the reactor core. So in case there is a loss of electric power and other events, this reservoir of water will dump water through gravity without pump into the reactor core, keeping the core covered and cooled. So this is the direction that next generation nuclear power plants are moving to.
Now, did I hear you correctly that currently the U.S. has something like 100 reactors?
Right, 104 nuclear power plants.
How do the current crop of reactors compare with the Japanese reactors? I understand the Japanese reactors are something of comparatively older technology.
Out of 100 some nuclear power plants, 25 plus power plants are similar in design to the ill-fated Japanese power plants, boiling water reactors as we call. basically of General Electric design. So although some improvement have been made to U.S. Reactors of this particular type, basic function is fairly similar. And especially after 9/11, additional efforts have been made to keep emergency diesel generators secure and, again, more reliable in case of terrorist attack and so on. But otherwise, the basic function is still fairly similar. So we have to make all effort not to lose offsite power, electric power delivered to the nuclear power plant of this particular kind of design.
All right. And I understand we're just about out of time, but I want to plug, even though it's an educational book for nuclear engineers, you're about to release a book you co-wrote, Risk and Safety Analysis of Nuclear Systems. If we have a nuclear engineer out there who's interested, how does he find out about it?
Oh, it's listed on Amazon.com already.
Oh, excellent. The best of luck with it. Dr. John C. Lee has been my guest, and Dr. Lee, I really appreciate you. You've helped me, and I guarantee you've helped a lot of people out there come to some kind of an understanding rather than just being reactive to the situation, some understanding of what we're really facing here, and I appreciate your time, as do all of us.
Thanks very much for having me.
My pleasure. Dr. John C. Lee, and check it out on Amazon.com, The Risk and Safety Analysis of Nuclear Systems by Dr. John C. Lee.